So this video is about how to make rum in your kitchen, as long as you have a still. So there's many different recipes for rum. Some use blackstrap molasses. I'm using fancy molasses. The key with the molasses is it should not have sulfur in it, because sulfur will prevent the fermentation process, which is important. So basically, what I'm going to use here is 3 of these. It's fancy molasses. On the back it says, on the ingredients, it's fancy molasses. So I checked it out and it does not have sulfur in it, so that's good. So I have 3 of these. These are 675 grams. So how much is 600? It looks like a pint. I don't know, is it half a pint? I think it's a pint for you, our fine friends down south of the border. I'm in Canada here. And then I have 3 1-kilo bags of dark brown sugar. A kilo is 2.2 pounds, so that equals 6.6 pounds of dark brown sugar. So what I'm doing is heating up water here in my, this is a 5-gallon or 20-liter pot. It's about half full of water, so I'm heating it up, and I'm going to introduce the molasses and brown sugar in there, stir it up. The reason why I'm heating it up is just so it'll dissolve quickly, and once it's dissolved, then I'll top it up with cool water, see if I can bring the temperature down to about 80 degrees Fahrenheit, or I would say like 25 degrees Celsius. And when I get it to that temperature, I'll put it into a glass carboy, add the yeast to it, and also the like an yeast energizer. And I will say that it's going to take a while for this to ferment down. That's because this is caramelized sugar, and caramelized sugar doesn't like to ferment compared to a natural sugar like you would find in a grape. If you're making wine, for example, or if you used dextrose, which is like a corn sugar, it ferments quickly. This stuff takes a while to ferment because it's caramelized, it's been cooked, and so that's something you have to keep in mind. You might have to keep an eye on this. It might take 3-4 weeks before that ferments right down, and my goal is to get about 12%, maybe a little more, 12% alcohol out of this pot. And yeah, so I'm going to put the stuff in now, and we'll go from there. So I still have the burner on. It's warm, so I don't know if we can focus on that. I guess it's not bad. I'm not going to pour it through here. It takes too long. I'll just open it up like that, because I'll pour the stuff in and then rinse it out. Let's see if we can get this to open here. There you go. I want to get all that good, that black sticky molasses out of there. There's still some in there, okay. One more little rinse. That's pretty good. And then you want to give it a stir. Don't want anything to burn on the bottom of the pot. It wouldn't burn anyway. I could actually turn the burner off or way down. It doesn't have to boil. Just want it to dissolve quickly. So that's one. So yeah, so I'll keep adding more molasses, and then I'll add the sugar. Just wanted to add a little point here about the difference between blackstrap and fancy molasses. From what I understand, the blackstrap molasses is the very last sort of dregs that they get from the refining of sugar. And so the blackstrap really has very little sugar content, or none. It does have other food value, proteins and all that. That's why they use it to, they feed animals with it. So the fancy molasses has more sugar. So some of the recipes call for quite a bit of blackstrap, and it's because it does, and quite a bit of sugar actually. 8 pounds of sugar as opposed to what I'm doing 6.6. And that's because this, why I'm doing it this way is because this molasses has quite a bit of sugar in it actually. So what does it say for sugar? It says sugar, 15% of your recommended daily allowance. So 1 tablespoon or 20 grams of this has 15 grams of sugar. There's a lot of sugar in this. So I've got the molasses in there now. Give it a quick stir, make sure it's integrated nicely. Looks pretty dark in there. The idea is to get 12 to 15% alcohol at the end of the day out of your fermentation batch. We'll call it low wines, or you can call it whatever you want. If you get very much above that, then you've got to use a different kind of yeast than what I use. I use EC Lavlin, it's called EC 1118. I just use that for everything. You can play around with different types of yeast. I don't know if you'll notice a difference. Maybe in your mind you will, but that's what I use. Pouring in the dark brown sugar. Whoa. Now this will take a little longer to dissolve into the mixture just because it's granulated instead of liquid. Okay, I'm going to add the rest of the sugar and we'll go from there. Okay, I've been stirring this for at least 5 minutes. I'm going to take out my trusty meat thermometer and see what we got here for temperature. So like I said, I want to bring it down to about 80 degrees Fahrenheit or 25 Celsius. And it looks like we're going to sit at around 120 degrees. So I'm going to add some cold water to this and see if I can't get it down to 80. I don't want to fill this pot too high, otherwise it won't fit into the glass carboy. So yeah, I think I don't know what to do now. Maybe I'll put it in the glass carboy and then add some cold water. And well, it's pretty hard to check the temperature that way. Okay, I'm going to put it in a primary fermenter. It's like an open pail thing I normally use when I'm doing wine. That way I can monitor the temperature a little better. And so what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to make 2 of these batches, because why not? Why not make 2? And out of this batch, I should be able to, let's do a bit of math here. Let's say that I'm going to achieve, let's be optimistic. Let's say I'm going to get, well, let's say I get 12% alcohol. So 20 liters times 0.12 is equal to 2.4, right? So 2.4, there's a potential of 2.4 liters of pure alcohol in this, is going to be in this batch. Now some of it you're not going to be able to extract just because of the way alcohol molecules bind with water molecules. So let's be a little bit pessimistic and say we're going to get 2 liters of pure alcohol. Well, that's good, because normally when you drink rum it's at 40%. So what's 2 divided by 0.4? That's hard to do. This is 5 liters of rum. I'm saying liters. 5 liters of rum at 40%. That's a lot of rum. That's awesome. Okay, so I'm going to put this into another container and just get the temperature down, and then we'll add some yeast and some yeast energizer. So I'm going to pour this stuff into this primary fermenter. Just pouring it alone will cool it down quite a bit. That's good. There's nothing on the bottom. There isn't any accumulation of anything. Okay, great. So it looks like what I have here is some marks. You might not be able to see them. That would make a full bottle. So I think I can add a bit of cold water to that. So one thing about using these containers and fermenters is you got to wash them really good, because this is going to be a long ferment, like I said, 3 maybe 4 weeks, and we don't want any contamination. Like for example, a vinegar yeast could reside in there and just ruin the whole thing. So you got to clean it real well. So let me see if I can get my temperature down. So this batch has cooled down. I've been adding a bit of water to it. So now I'm going to test the specific gravity, and that'll give me an idea of the potential alcohol that I've got here. Oh, that's bobbing up pretty high. And this is actually a little bit warm yet. So the warmer the water is, the lower down that hygrometer will sink. So it's actually a little bit lower than if it was at 80 degrees. Right now it's running about 90 degrees. So I'm just going to put my thumb where that is. And well, it says like 11% alcohol. So if it was a colder temperature, we would probably be up around 12%. The way I figure it. I don't know if you can see that. Probably not going to focus that well. Here, I'll take it off of auto and put it on manual. And bring you in here. If I could see better, it'd be better for all of us. So it's running right about the bottom of this green line here, which is maybe like that. Okay, that's pretty good there. Look at that. So I'm right about here, where my thumb is. See where it says 10%? That's potential alcohol. So I'm at 11, but because it's still a pretty warm mix, I'm probably more like 12, maybe a little over 12. So I'm going to call it good. So you could actually put more sugar in there. You could put an extra bag of brown sugar or an extra container of molasses, and you could probably bring that right up to like around 15. But I'm going to call this good. And yeah. Now I'm going to just wait a little bit, and then I'm going to add the energizer and the yeast. So I've got this down to just below 90 degrees Fahrenheit. So what I'm going to do is add a yeast energizer. And it says half a teaspoon per US gallon. So I'll stir it up and put that in. So I got 5 gallons, so 5 times 0.5, 2.5 teaspoons. So that's almost a tablespoon. Now, all this equipment, I've washed it really good. You can use a sterilizer from a wine and beer store, or you can use dish soap. The sterilizer powder you get from the wine and beer store is good because it's real easy to rinse out. It doesn't get sudsy or foamy. Whereas dish soap does the same thing, only it's a lot harder to rinse out. If you're going to use dish soap, you got to rinse a lot. Make sure there's no residue of that on the surfaces that you're going to use. So I got that going around and around. This is a half of a tablespoon. So I'm going to put a little bit more than that in. and stir this up good. I use the yeast energizer in quite a few things that I distill, except wine. You don't need it for that, but I've made this rum out of maple syrup, blackberries, blueberries. They grow like crazy around here, and so I always use yeast energizer because them sugars, they don't like to ferment so easily. So I got that going around a circle pretty good. Now I'm going to add the yeast. This yeast I use, you probably can't read that. Something going on with my camera right now, but it's Lalvin EC1118. An all around good yeast. It comes with most wine kits. Oops, getting it all over the place here. Just sprinkle it over the surface. And that's it. So I probably made a mistake there. I probably should have put it in the glass carboy before I put the yeast in it. I don't want to leave any of that yeast behind. But the yeast in this yeast energizer, I buy this off Amazon in bulk. You could get it from local wine and beer store. That's more convenient for sure. But that's how I get that stuff. So I'm going to consider whether I should siphon this into a container, right into a glass carboy right now. Yeah, so I've decided to siphon this stuff off, and let me create a siphon here. So as I mentioned, I was kind of wishing or thinking afterwards I should have added the yeast after, but if there's any yeast, if the yeast is left over in this container, I can always do a quick rinse, just a little bit of water, and well, I lost my siphon, and then rinse that yeast into the carboy. That's what I'll do. Okay, so you'll notice I've got this attached to a stick with some elastic bands, and that's just so I can control this and make sure that this hose stays to the bottom of the thing, which it doesn't want to do right now, but yeah. It's going to take a minute because I don't have a very big hose here. So I've got my batch all mixed up and put into a glass carboy. Now I did have some yeast remaining in that primary fermenter, so I just used a bit of warmish water and rinsed it around. I'm pretty sure I got it all, and I just poured it back into the thing with a funnel. So I've got a airlock on top of that, so I'm going to keep an eye on this. It should start fermenting. It'll bubbling and it'll bubble up through the airlock that I have on the top. So I'm putting this in a warm room. Fortunately, my wife is pretty good natured. She doesn't mind me taking up the spare bedroom with such you know, endeavors. So yeah, keep an eye on this, and hopefully in 3-4 weeks we'll be ready to distill. So now I'm going to go and process that second batch. The reason why I'm doing 2 batches at once is because it's just more efficient when I'm using this for the still, because I like to distill these 3 times. There's a stripping run, and then a spirit run, and then I like to do a 3rd spirit run. But if I have 2 batches, then I have 2 stripping runs, and then I only have, then I can combine those two stripping runs because there's not going to be much volume there. And then so I can combine them and do 2 spirit runs after that. So I'll do a total of 4 runs instead of potentially 6 runs if I was to do these 2 batches, you know, not simultaneously. So that's my logic there. So anyways, I'll head over and start working on that second batch. So if you're wondering what the costs are, this the 6 bags of brown sugar and the 6 containers of molasses worked out to $48.48. I was surprised at that total. I asked the cashier, do I get a prize for having $48.48? But no, they don't have a prize for that. So for a little bit less than $50, I'm going to end up with about 16 liters of rum. That's pretty good. If anyone wonders why I do this, that's why. It's pretty economical. I don't really drink that much, but it's a good hobby, if nothing else. So yeah, that's the breakdown money-wise. So I got my second batch done. So the second batch, I put the yeast energizer in the primary fermenter. It was easy to mix it in, and then I didn't add the yeast though until I put it in the secondary into the glass bottle. I carefully poured it in through the neck after I'd stirred it up and got it going, you know, in a big whirlpool action so it distribute the yeast around. Now you may notice that this bottle there is a little less volume in it. It's because I didn't heat the mixture up on the stove quite as high. I don't think I really needed to, so I didn't have to add as much water to cool it down. And the volume's not really crucial. What it is the amount of alcohol in there, not the percentage according to the volume, but the actual amount of alcohol potential that's in there. So they will both have the same potential amount of alcohol in each container, even though this one here has a little less volume in it. These jars are heavy. This is kind of heavy work, so if you're going to embark on this, have a good back, or have your brewing room set up in such a way as you don't have to be lugging these things around, which I don't have that set up at this point in time, but hey, maybe the next house I build will have that. So that's it for this video. The next video we'll just keep an eye on the fermentation, and then we'll go into the distilling process. Thanks for watching.